I was just trying to return a damn book. That's it. Not fall in love with a woman whose life was nothing like mine, and whose secrets would nearly destroy me. Hey, I'm Eli Weston. I'm 25, I work in tech, support engineer by day, musician by night, and this is the story I've never told anyone. Not my roommate, not my mom, not even my therapist. Call it, I went to return a book, but she said, stay and talk to me. It started one rainy Tuesday in October. You know, the kind where the sky's heavy, like it's carrying more than just clouds. I'd left work early after arguing with my manager over a code rollout that wasn't even my fault. I needed air, clarity, maybe a moment to pretend my life wasn't quietly unraveling. So I ducked into this little used bookstore tucked between a wine bar and a dog groomer's on Riverwood Street. It smelled like cedar and old pages, the kind of place that doesn't feel like it belongs in the present. I was there to return a book, a copy of East of Eden, something I borrowed from a coworker named Kira. She'd left the company 2 weeks ago. No goodbye, no email, just vanished. The woman behind the counter wasn't her. She was taller, late 20s maybe, deep auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, glasses sliding down her nose, sleeves rolled halfway up revealing ink, an old compass on one arm, a line of text on the other. I couldn't read it then, but I would memorize it later. She looked up from a stack of inventory sheets and said in a voice that was half honey, half thunderstorm, returning or discovering? I blinked. Returning. She took the book, turned it in her hand like it had weight beyond paper, then looked up again, eyes narrowing. Kira's copy, she said, not a question. I hesitated. Yeah, you know her. She didn't answer right away. She set the book aside, leaned her elbows on the counter and said, stay and talk to me. And I did. The conversation started light. Books, music, my job. I learned her name was Rowan. She co-owned the bookstore with her older brother, who was out back fixing the heater, but never emerged. She told me Kira had once worked there part-time before getting the tech gig. Said she was brilliant, but not built for the corporate grind. She ever tell you why she left? I asked. Rowan's smile faded like ink in the rain. Didn't get the chance. There was a pause, a silence that felt like a page turning itself. She offered me tea. I said yes. The back room was dim and cozy. Plants on the window, cracked leather chairs, a chipped mug that read Book Nerd. Felt lived in, real. Rowan brewed cinnamon chai on the stove and leaned against the kitchen island like we were old friends, not strangers. We talked about Asheville, about her favorite books, about how people pretend to be fine until they collapse in grocery stores or scream in their cars. I told her I felt like that lately, like I was performing calm. She nodded slowly. Most people are. But you look like you're about to quit everything and run. I chuckled, then stopped, because it wasn't funny. The doorbell chimed at the front. Rowan didn't move. She just stared at me and said, almost whispering, do you believe that people come into your life right when they're supposed to? I don't know, I said. I used to. She smiled then, sadly, like she already knew something I didn't. Over the next week, I went back to the bookstore. Not to return anything, just to be there. And each time, Rowan opened a little more. She told me about her brother, Caleb, a military vet who walked with a cane and rarely spoke, about how their mom had left when she was 12, about how she used to run until her lungs gave out just to forget things. But she never mentioned Kira again. And every time I asked, she dodged it like it burned her. One night, we were sitting outside the shop, autumn wind brushing her hair into her eyes, and I said, Rowan, what happened between you and Kira? She looked at me, really looked, and said, Kira didn't just leave the company. She didn't even leave this city. She's hiding. From who? She hesitated. And that's when I noticed the man across the street, leaning against a lamppost, pretending to smoke, watching us. Rowan's eyes locked on him. Her jaw tensed. She stood. We need to go inside. Rowan. Who is that? She didn't answer. She just grabbed my hand. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just a quiet bookstore with a strange girl and cinnamon tea. I was in the middle of something much bigger. There are moments in life where you feel the ground shift, not beneath your feet but inside your chest. That night was one of them. The bookstore felt different when we stepped back in. The warmth was still there, the light still soft, but something underneath had shifted, like we'd stepped into a place that remembered every secret whispered inside it. Rowan locked the door behind us. The guy outside, still standing there, still watching. I turned to her. Okay, what the hell is going on? She leaned against the door like she needed it to hold her up. That man, he works for someone named Thorn. You don't want to be noticed by Thorn. Who's Thorn? She looked at me, eyes wide and unblinking. He's Kira's father. That hit like a car crash. I took a step back. Wait, Kira's dad? You're telling me that smiling, sarcastic coworker of mine had a dangerous family and never mentioned it? Rowan gave a humorless laugh. Because she was trying to start over. Because she was afraid. And because Thorn isn't just some guy. He owns people, businesses, police. Your old company? Funded by his shell accounts. I sat down slowly, like the air had thickened. So why are you in this? She hesitated. Then she reached up, pulled the compass sleeve back to reveal a long scar beneath it. Thin, pale, almost elegant, but not something she gave herself. I tried to help Kira disappear, Rowan whispered. I got too close. And now, I'm on the list too. She told me how she met Kira 2 years ago, when Kira's car broke down outside the shop, how they became fast friends, then more, how Kira moved in, then vanished overnight. She didn't even take her books, Rowan said softly, just left a note, said I'd be safer without her. But you weren't, I said. No, because I didn't stop looking. That night, I didn't go home. Rowan pulled out an old futon, handed me a blanket. I couldn't sleep, not with questions bouncing around my skull like bullets in a vault. Why did Kira leave the company the same week I overheard 2 execs talking about erasing a leak? Why had HR told me she moved to Boston, when she clearly hadn't? Why was I suddenly a character in someone else's crime novel? At 3:12 a.m., Rowan crept into the room with a file folder, sat beside me on the floor, whispered, "Don't freak out." She opened it. Inside photos. Kira, in different cities. Phone records. Security footage. One picture of a man, mid-50s, sharp suit, snake eyes, laughing with a senator on a golf course. Thorn, she said. And this, she pointed to a name in the corner, is his personal fixer, Evan Merritt. He's the one watching the store. I swallowed. You've been tracking them? I used to be a systems analyst. Before I quit corporate. Before Kira. Then Rowan paused, eyes meeting mine. But Eli, there's something I haven't told you yet. I didn't breathe. She's been contacting me. From a burner. Short messages. No names. She's close. Watching, I think. And last night, she used your name. I felt like the floor gave out. How does she even know me? Rowan's voice cracked. That's what I'm afraid to find out. At sunrise, she drove me to a place she swore no one knew about. Her brother Caleb's off-grid cabin in the Blue Ridge Woods. The air was sharp, clean. No signal. Just birds, pine, and the sound of our boots crunching frost. Caleb didn't speak when he saw me. Just nodded, handed me a thermos, and pointed to the woodpile. Rowan and I sat on the steps later that afternoon, watching a storm build behind the mountains. She turned to me and said, "You didn't have to get involved." "I didn't mean to," I replied, "but you asked me to stay and talk, and I haven't wanted to leave since." She looked at me, really looked, like she was measuring something fragile and huge. "I think you were the only part of Kira's life she didn't want tainted," Rowan whispered. "I think you meant something to her before all this. Maybe still do." And that's when it happened. A black SUV rolled up the gravel road. Caleb reached for the shotgun behind the door. Rowan stood frozen. A man stepped out, tall, clean-cut, in a charcoal coat and aviators. He said one sentence that shattered everything. "Eli Weston, we need you to come with us. It's about your mother." Some truths rip you open so wide. Even love can't stitch you back together the same way again. My heart was hammering. My throat dried up like it had swallowed dust. The man in the charcoal coat stood tall, crisp like a government official or someone pretending to be one. His voice was too calm, his words too sharp. "It's about your mother." Rowan stepped in front of me like a shield. Caleb cocked the shotgun with a click that cut through the cold mountain air. The man raised his hands. "We're not here to arrest anyone. Not yet." "What do you mean, yet?" I barked. He reached into his coat, slowly, and handed me a file. Inside it was a photo. Grainy. Surveillance. My mom, Janice Weston, at a cafe in Charlotte. With Kira. Rowan gasped. "What the hell? She's not just a schoolteacher, is she?" The man asked. "Your mother has ties to Thorn. She worked with his firm 15 years ago on a private security contract." I stepped back like I'd been punched. "No, that's not possible. She was the one who helped his daughter disappear the first time," he added. Rowan grabbed my wrist. "That means your mom helped hide Kira. Maybe more than once." I stared at the trees, the cold stinging my face, my mind racing backward through every memory I had of my mom. Late night calls. Strange packages she told me to ignore. That summer we moved without warning when I was 16. She knew. She'd been in this long before I ever returned that book. And now, I was in it too. We rode with the man whose name turned out to be Agent Quinn from a private federal task force. Off the record, deep end of the government pool. He didn't want Thorn for fraud. He wanted him for trafficking, human, digital, political. Kira was the key. She'd stolen a drive from her father. Data on offshore accounts and names of protected clients. Some in the Senate. And me? I was the connection. My mom had arranged Kira's corporate job as a cover. She thought I'd never notice her. But I did. And Kira noticed back. When we arrived at the safe house, I saw her. Kira. Hair shorter, a faint scar on her cheek, but unmistakable. She stepped out from the shadows like she'd been waiting for this exact second to breathe. "Eli," she said, and everything in me broke open. We talked in hushed tones behind locked doors. Rowan stood at the window, not looking at us. Caleb outside, smoking silently. Kira explained how she'd begged my mother to keep me out of it. How she'd left that book on purpose, so I'd return it and maybe find Rowan. "So what was I?" I asked, trembling. "A middleman? A backup plan?" Her voice cracked. "No, you were the only real thing I had left." That night, the safe house was raided. Someone had leaked the location. Caleb fought back. 2 men went down. I helped Kira escape through the back while Rowan hotwired the agent's SUV. We drove through a forest fire of headlights and sirens, tires squealing on wet asphalt. Rowan screaming turn-by-turn directions like her heart was on fire. We made it to the river before they caught up. Guns drawn, lights flashing, Agent Quinn bleeding in the back seat, and Thorn finally in front of me. "I should have killed your mother when I had the chance," he said, calm as a priest. And before I could think, Rowan stepped between him and Kira. "I'm not letting you take her again." Thorn raised his gun. So I did something reckless, something I've never stopped questioning. I tackled him. The gun went off. When the smoke cleared, he was down, and Rowan wasn't moving. 3 weeks later, Rowan survived. Barely. The bullet hit just below her ribs. She spent 6 days in intensive care, drifting between fevered dreams and breathless whispers. Kira turned the drive over to Quinn's people. Thorn's empire collapsed in 72 hours. Names spilled out like poison from a cracked vial. My mother came clean. She admitted everything. Why she ran. Why she kept it all from me. I told her I forgave her. But I didn't. Not yet. Rowan recovered in a cabin far from Asheville. Caleb by her side. Me visiting every weekend. She still drinks cinnamon chai. Still calls me quiet eyes when I get too lost in thought. And Kira? She disappeared again. This time for good. Left a letter for both of us. Said she loved us in different ways, and both saved her life. So what did I learn? That love isn't always tidy. Sometimes it hides in bookstores, sometimes in blood. Sometimes Love isn't even the point, truth is. And truth will burn you clean. This story didn't end the way I expected. But I keep the book. East of Eden. Still smells like old paper and broken promises. Still has her name on the inside cover. Still reminds me that everything starts when someone says, "Stay and talk to me."